Okay. It's 7:01. Let's go ahead and get the meeting started. Let's call to order and have roll call. I want to apologize first. For some reason, I have some technical difficulties. My camera is not working, so you're not going to see me tonight, which is probably a good thing. You just hear me.
Right. Committee member Wheaton. He's here. He's muted, but he's here. Committee member Eric.
Can everybody hear us?
Hi, Tim here.
Hey, Tim.
Amber's mic is really low. Will, I can hear you fine.
We've got them, they share, so hopefully, can you hear me better now? Okay, great. Committee member Lumiere.
I'm here.
Great, and I'm glad you can hear us. Committee member Reynolds.
Here.
Committee member Schwab has let us know he will not be here tonight, and committee member Brown has also let us know he won't be here tonight. Committee member Barney.
Here.
Committee member Castillo.
Here.
Committee member Rizzo.
Here.
Committee member Henshaw.
Here.
And Chair Knight.
No, she's off somewhere having a vacation thing.
Yeah, I'm actually in Nicaragua. No, I'm not.
All right. For those of us here in the room, let's rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. For those at home, welcome to join us tonight. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Extra light is all.
for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending tonight. First off, we'll ask, I see we have a few people from the public. Is there any public comment to start the meeting? Ready, public comments. I will remind everyone that public comment is available at any time, so feel free to raise your hand. Is there any public comment to start the meeting with?
I will. This is Paul Wilcox.
Paul, go for it.
I just wanted to mention I appreciate you providing a Zoom link on the website for this meeting. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Give a clap to Amber for that. Thank you.
That'll make it easier for everyone.
Okay, any other public comment to start the meeting? Okay, we'll give it just another quick beat and then we'll move on to.
I need the extension cord. I need the TV off. If no one's there.
What's that, Tim? Okay. All right. Well, I want to welcome.
I'm okay.
Our council members who we invited in tonight to introduce themselves. We'll start out by saying Glenn White let us know that he apologizes he's unable to attend this evening. However, he's hoping to attend next month's meeting to be able to say hello and answer any questions at that time. With that being said, I want to welcome Ms. Krantz and Ms. Clance and let you guys say hi, and you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but the intent was just to have some of our council members stop in, say hi, and meet our team so we can meet you as well. So, Councilor Krantz.
Hello, Councilor Krantz here. I apologize. I'm having a little bit of timeout going on in the background here with my little one, so I didn't hear much. I don't know. If you guys want to skip past me, I'll come back. I like to talk, so I'd like to listen. I'll be here to listen tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Glantz.
Hi, I've been to a couple of these meetings before, and I just appreciate everything you guys do. So it'll be kind of fun to listen in tonight.
Thank you very much. Does anybody from the CAC have any questions or any comments for either of our council members in attendance this evening?
Is there anything we can do to make your jobs easier?
Diane?
Hello, Ms. Krantz and Ms. Glantz.
I was just wondering if there's a couple of topics that you might be able to share with us, just one-liners or as short as you like to just let us know what's coming up. I always encourage CAC and people from other committees to attend the council meetings. They're very informative, and I appreciate the hard work and your all's contribution to the city. So if either of you can just highlight a couple of things that you're working on currently.
I'm relatively new to the council. I just started working with a group called the RDPO, the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization, and have been doing a bit of homework to kind of catch up on what all they do and how that integrates with Troutdale. And then I don't know if these are public, but we get these lists of things that are upcoming for city council. And some of the stuff on there is there's an area near the downtown corridor that's part of the Metro Housing Bond. And so there's some discussions around that coming up. There's a lot of talk right now about both Town Center and the URA. And I understand that at the March 9th meeting, we're going to have Councillor Shirley Craddock there too. So lots of different stuff going on. Obviously, COVID's changing a lot of things for a lot of people. So that seems to have a lot of impact on a lot of different topics. I know Jamie does a lot with transportation, so she probably has some stuff to talk about there too.
Yeah, I am happy to be here as well, and would like to continue to strengthen the communication between CAC and City Council, and encourage everybody to, show up and get involved. I know I give Paul Wilcox a little shout out here for being probably one of the most committed citizens we have, who attends most of the meetings. I started out on the Planning Commission with Tanny and Sandy, and then kind of worked my way forward with Budget Committee, and then now on City Council, basically being midterm. And I feel like, the first year on City Council pre-pandemic, I was kind of just getting my feet on the ground, and then pandemic hit. And one of the things that I really like about City Council is that everybody kind of has a subcommittee or a different topic that they serve, that they bring back to the group. And so I've been working since I started with a group called AmuckTuck, which is also another public meeting. It's an acronym, kind of funny sounding, stands for East Multnomah County Transportation Committee. And I also serve as our alternate for a more regional conversation called JPAC, which is the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation, which is facilitated by Metro. So in my past working career life, I had worked in the transportation sector and manufacturing accounting for a company that built streetcars. So it kind of was something that had gotten into from the private side on the policy, and then kind of found my nerdy angle through council and got to run with it. And so I think that that's kind of the nice thing about being on City Council, is that it's an opportunity to learn more about leadership and take some of the skill sets that you like to focus on and fine tune them. And, I think with all these volunteer roles that we have, it's really an opportunity for us to grow, get involved, and speak up and have our input to help make our community a better place to live. One of my big goals here, I kind of tend to look at things analytically. I'm like, okay, I have 22 months left with City Council in my mind. And I'm like, I really want to sell the urban renewal agents, or the urban renewal property, basically, which we're now calling the Confluence. And we did a town center document, which is wonderful. There's a lot of detail on it. And that's kind of one of my goals, is in the next less than 2 years to sell it to the appropriate developer that can complete the vision that we have. So yeah, and I welcome anybody to call anytime. I love to talk. I talk on the phone a lot. So my phone number is probably available through the phone. I know I've reached out to Heidi often. I've talked to Tanny and Sandy and Diane and Paul via email. But anyhow, I think that, we have these conversations. We might not all have the same opinion or be coming from the same place, but we work together to honor and listen to and move forward with consensus.
Excellent. Thank you both very much. Any other questions for our counselors in attendance this evening? Heidi.
I guess just kind of a generalized idea for you to have in the back of your heads is to think about how we can help you. I think our goal is to be an advisory for you. So the more that you give us, the more we can work on. I for one love having a concrete thing to work on.
I have a knee-jerk response, and I really love getting input from people and involvement. So if there's anything you guys can do to really get more people involved, that's one of my hopes, is to really get more involvement from all demographics.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions? All right.
Yeah, Tim Eric here. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on board here. And it's great to be a part of this, this get together on a monthly basis. One of the questions I have for the council members is, in terms of your expectations for the CAC, do you prefer if we deal only with issues that are sent to us from the council? Or do you think CAC has a role to bring up other things that might come to our attention? That
Definitely would want feedback from you guys. I mean, that's what I think part of the purpose is to, wave the flag and say, hey, you guys are totally missing this. What are you doing? And some of the stuff I look for is I love things that give me information. It's sometimes hard when people come to testify that they don't necessarily represent all of Troutdale. They represent a small portion of Troutdale. So things like the housing need analysis or any kind of information gathering on things that, you guys think would make sense. Love it. Absolutely love it. It allows us to do a better job.
Thank you.
Okay, looking on the screen, any other questions? All right, well, thank you both for attending this evening. You're welcome to stay as long as you like, and we'd like to keep a very open roundtable discussion. So if there's any comments you'd like to make or same thing with anybody else from the public tonight, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to you and let you have your comment.
Yeah, just one last comment. The email is on the city website. Phone number, I think, is sitting there too. Happy to talk to anybody. I probably prefer email just because I tend to have kind of a crazy time during the day. But, even if there's just something random, let us know. Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to the first exciting topic, and that's review approval of the minutes from February. So enough of that discussion, and see if anybody has any edits that they'd like to bring up. I can only see a couple of people from CAC, so go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know if you have any comments or edits.
I'm actually just going to say I love on the top line that says public comments are welcome at any time during the meeting. I appreciate that. That's really, I think that's awesome.
Okay, I was not at the meeting. I'm looking at, I reviewed the minutes, and I just wanted to know on page number 2, it mentioned, it's talking about photos, and it says Ms. Rizzo said that Ms. Castillo took some photos, and she has some of the garden that she could provide, so.
No, I have a garden. You did the Halloween.
Halloween, yes, I do. Okay, that's what I wanted to know, so I can share those. Okay, thank you.
So that needs correction.
Oh, yeah, I think it could. I'll change she to Miss Rizzo.
Any other edits? Okay. Give it another quick second here, and we don't have anybody unmute. Let's go ahead.
On page 5.
Okay.
where second paragraph where I'm talking, they've got, that was two different subjects and it's all jumbled up into one. One was about our budget committee for City of Troutdale and the other was about budget software. And it actually should be made into two paragraphs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, do you think just how I moved, just starting with this sentence, she likes the idea of, do you think that makes sense as a break?
Yeah, and then the last sentence should be with the things about our budget committee. It's all mixed up.
Yeah. Would this work for you, or would you prefer me to take that back to the transcriptionist to have redone?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any other edits they'd like to make? If there are none, shall we entertain a motion and a second to accept the February 3rd, 2021 minutes as edited? I'll move to accept the minutes. So moved by Chris Barney. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Victoria Rizzo. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, is there any opposition? All right, seeing none, the motion is carried. Okay.
Will, I have a question.
Oh, Diane, go for it.
Okay, I see, I don't know if he's still here. Is Tanny Stephenson is here. I was wondering, I'm not sure why he's here, and he's the chair of planning, and he's also on the chair of the 20-year committee. But I was wondering if we find out, maybe consider what he's here for and see if there's we
He's
can
also
change
on budget.
What's that?
He's also on budget.
Oh, he's also the chair of the budget committee. Okay, so.
Yes, public comment was opened at the beginning.
Okay.
That would have been a great time. If it's something that Tanny is short on time, and it's a short topic, I'd love to entertain that. Otherwise, if we could do number or discussion A, just because I've been made aware from Heidi that she's on a time commitment, and this is her topic that she's going to be leading. But let me open it up to Tanny and let him answer that question. Okay. I believe you said I'm good.
Yes, I'm good. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, so Heidi reached out this last month, and she found that the Neighbors Together Community Safety Program, I believe is what it's called, offers trainings. And there was a really wide range of trainings, and they seemed like they might be somewhat appropriate to be able to offer to the community of Troutdale. And I'm going to go ahead and let Heidi talk about it, and let's open the discussion.
I always forget to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all virtually. So I'm looking at our website, and so the Citizen Advisory Committee is primarily charged with encouraging citizen involvement. So I went to this. Amber, can I share? How does that work? Oh, share screen.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you see my PowerPoint, or what do you see?
Yep, we
Yeah.
can see it.
Okay, cool. So I went to this thing last month, and it was really cool. And I thought this is something that we could do together. We could have a training, and then we could take our newfound knowledge out into the community. So it's just an idea. So basically, I'm presenting this to you for consideration as something we could do. And if people want to do it, great. I can ask them to come in and do a training. If people don't want to do it, no big deal. But now you'll know that it exists, and if anybody ever asks you if something like this exists, then now you know it does. So this is the Neighbors Together program. It's put on by Metro. The idea is creating a safer, more inclusive community. See if I can get this to advance. So the idea would be we would get together. That's what we're doing right now, to talk about safety interests. It says safety interests, but it really is more broad than that. I'll show you in a minute what all the different topics include. And then we decide on something, and then they come talk to us. Pretty simple. So the example trainings. And I talked to the gal today, and I thought at first that we had to pick just one, but actually we can have her for an hour and she can talk about like 2 to 5 things. So we could have a training about emergency preparedness, like how to create safety kits, or I don't know exactly what it entails because I haven't done the training, but it sounds interesting. Personal safety, whatever that means. Active transportation. So some of these I feel like are probably more appropriate for us, but I thought I'd include the whole list so that you knew what was available. Safe routes to school. I mean, I know one of the things we're thinking about is what to do with Sandy Avenue up behind Troutdale Elementary. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that this is something we could consider. Social connection. So the one that I attended was social connections and reducing social isolation. Because I don't know about you, but I've been spending a lot of time alone at home. And there are some very measurable ways that we can reduce social isolation and all of the various bummers that go along with that. Youth safety, public safety systems, navigation, and reporting hate crimes. So that is something that maybe we could discuss in terms of the other public safety committee, but it's also something we could do. We can do both. Crime prevention through environmental design. And what that is, I looked into that a little bit. It's like, how do you prepare your property to mitigate potential crime? So like, which bushes do you need to trim, and where do you need lights, and that kind of thing. Block party organizing and other street events so we can get prepped for the summer. Multi-dwelling safety for apartments, and community care and litter removal events. So I took that to mean like, what could we do if we wanted to organize a litter removal event? How do we go about doing that? So we could pick some of these. Next. So they are available to come talk to us at the next 2 meetings, should you want them to. These are the 2 that I asked them about. That's the source if you want to look at it later. I think Amber will probably email this out to you so you can have all this in your email. Amber's nodding. Thank you, Amber. So then like next steps would just be if we want to do it, we schedule the training, then I would email you all and make sure it was confirmed. And then we could do some sharing. I asked them if we could share this with the community at large. It doesn't have to just be us. We could put it out on any of the social networks, or if I thought we could brainstorm some ways that we could let people know about it. These are just some of my brainstorms. And just so you know, they have this other thing, this Fix It Fair guide, which has all kinds of cool free stuff. So like gardening and yard care tips, and then financial wellness. They have a whole course on it. Health and nutrition and well-being, like how to cook cheaply, how to cook healthfully, how to reuse, recycle, all that kind of stuff. How to have more of a borrowing economy in your local neighborhood. And I wondered, Victoria, if this is something that you had mentioned, that I know that you do some financial awareness work in the schools, but there's a whole nonprofit called Financial Beginnings, which is doing both in the schools and also for adults. And they have a lot of free material on their website, and it's contracted through the state. So I feel like there probably wouldn't be any conflict of interest for putting it on our website should we want to.
Cool.
And that's it. So let's see. I will go back to that screen and just ask everybody, do you want to do one of these trainings? It'd be about an hour. They'd come in, they'd do the training with the PowerPoint. that'd be it. We could talk about it.
Yeah, a quick question of clarification, Heidi, and thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the lead on this topic and bringing this up to us. When you say focusing on 2 to 5, does that mean they're going to get 2 to 5 done in 1 hour, or is it generally an hour per topic?
No, I asked her about that. Like she said, the litter removal event probably takes like 10 minutes. So we could pick a number of them.
And then if they did like emergency preparedness and youth safety, that's not too big of topics to get done in one thing. I mean,
Yeah, I imagine some of them take longer than others. She didn't give me she didn't give me time breakdowns on how long each one would take. But if we happen to pick 2 that were lengthy, we could just ask her to do a shortened version of them for an hour, I imagine.
and then what was your opinion of the training that you took and how useful you felt the information, useful and relevant the information was to the topic?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, that's why I brought it to you all, is because I thought it was good and helpful.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Any questions for Heidi or comments?
I have a comment.
I can see on my screen, I saw Councilor Kranz raise her hand first, and then Councilor Lance. And then
Yeah. Sorry.
after that, I
Oh. Okay. I was going to say, on a couple of them, on active transportation, safe routes to school, that's something I could definitely link the group with if that's one of the topics that you want. I know Mary Jo at the county could come talk on it. This is an awesome idea to bring up all these topics and work on inclusiveness. Another one that I've really wanted to pursue or get more information specifically from the city of Gresham is on block party organizing, because I remember that they do some type of a block party kit that they offered pre-pandemic. I have no idea if that has completely stopped, but they'd give out, I want to say, like coolers and just different things that you would need to have a block party. But it's something I've always heard of, but never participated in. So I have personal interest in having a block party. We live by Sandy Ave. We might celebrate it before it goes away. That's all I had to say.
thank you. I saw Councilor Lyons as well with a hand.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, instead of picking 2 to 5, why don't you prioritize them and then see how many you can get through? And then the other comment I had was in terms of doing a lot of this on Facebook, there's a lot of privacy issues that Facebook is coming under fire for. It might be better just to announce in Facebook that it's there and keep it on the city website.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Okay,
Sorry if that wasn't clear.
that was it. Thanks.
Okay, so right now I can only see Heidi. So if there's anybody else from the group that has a comment or wants a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and go for it.
Well, if you hover over like the rectangle at the top and bottom, there should be arrows that show up that let you like scroll through the different people. So you still can't see everyone at once, but you should be able to. Yeah, no problem.
See how often it is.
I have a question.
Diane.
Okay, I was wondering if maybe the CAC can be given the list and each individual think about what their priorities are. I like Sandy's idea, although I love the idea of a block party too, because with the block party, we can also have our flyers and promote, you know, the different groups there are in the CAC. And so that could be aspect of our outreach. But besides that, you know, we got a lot of items on there. It could take a whole hour for us to prioritize. So I think that might be an option, is for us to privately prioritize and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay. Diane, any thoughts about that?
Did you mean me?
I believe Diane was saying that we individually would then prioritize them and then bring them back. Did you have any that you thought would be a priority, Heidi?
The ones that stood out to me were emergency preparedness and social isolation. But that being said, I don't know what they mean by community care, but I like the idea. So it might be something. Yeah. We could even ask them to kind of just speak briefly on a number of things. I don't know. But I mean, is anybody interested in this? Like, it's so hard for me to tell. I'm sitting alone in my kitchen.
Yes, I am.
Well,
And I think, if I can interrupt, the emergency preparedness coupled with the social connections and community advocacy, anything that brings people together so the next time there is an emergency, we're not all at sea about what to do to include the people who have been isolated through the pandemic.
and believe it or not, we actually haven't talked about this, and that's kind of what I was thinking.
So the three for you then were the emergency preparedness, social isolation, and then what was the third one?
Community advocacy and organizing. Anything that brings people together. It almost doesn't matter what the topic is. What we want is the community to come together, I think.
Yeah, so like my idea was capacity building for us so that we could get better at doing that. And
Excellent. I like it. Victoria.
Just so we're not repeating ourselves, usually the rec department has an emergency preparedness class at least once a year. I've gone to them, well, we didn't this year because of COVID, but I've gone to them the 2 years prior to that. So that would be sort of repeating ourselves if they're going to continue doing that. I do like that active transportation, safe routes to school. Maybe it would get kids bicycling to school and walking to school and instead of taking the bus, which would be good, healthy, especially after being locked up this long.
Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate it. David, do you have any comments for us? For Tim?
I have a comment regarding the public safety systems and navigation. Well, I'm not sure if it's there or not. One of the things that struck me from this winter was that we had an awfully lot of snow. And I think it set a big time record, if I'm not mistaken, for Troutdale. And I'm one of the people who drove into town on that day and got stuck at an intersection. And no fault of anybody's but mine, my car high centered in the snow. Now, the reason I bring this up is from a public safety point of view and having safe routes, active transportation, having a lot of snow is an issue. But at the same time, I think there are things that we could do as a government to improve on our process because there still has to be emergency routes kept open for fire trucks and public works people to be able to get around it because people do continue to have emergencies and perhaps cause more emergencies because of the snow. And I think that in discussion amongst ourselves, this is one of those public safety issues that I think could be addressed to keep the major streets and think about who needs priorities on keeping their streets open and making sure there are methodologies to do that. I know Public Works has a priority schedule, but I think maybe it should be updated and looked at in terms of kind of like a COVID event. What are you going to do when it gets really bad? You can't just stay at home. Somebody's got to be able to take care of things. So that's my thought.
Are you saying the snow route priority, the way it's currently done, wasn't satisfied, or could be updated? Is that the thought?
Tim here, kind of continuing on some of David's ideas. I know I live on end of a street where the snow tends to pile up. I'm on the western end, and it blows down the street into my front yard. And our neighbors, I was able to dig out, but our neighbors, it was at least a week that they couldn't get out of their driveway. Public street that had 2 feet of snow on it. Mail wasn't delivered for many days, for a number of days anyhow. I found kind of interesting. So I think there are some things we should look at in terms of who would need help in a situation, a unique situation like this, and how do we identify those people? Kind of continuing on the idea of social connections and social isolation. I think we may have talked about this once before, but the country of England has opened a special office, the Office of Loneliness. And it's really, meeting a very, very important need. We think of technological society these days, and everyone's connected, but it's almost having the opposite effect in terms of real personal connections. So anyhow, I like that a lot. And then just kind of following up on the whole concept, if we have an agency or organization in the area that's already doing this, and if we can connect it to our website so that people have access to this, that's even more wonderful. Thank you. Good ideas.
Hi, this is Shelley. If we could, there's a lot of information here to kind of process. If we could just get this by email and maybe send our top 3 choices to Amber before the next meeting, maybe we could compile a list and have it ready for the next meeting. Maybe they can do the presentations in the May meeting. Looks like they're available for both April and May. And that gives us time to think about our individual priorities and our community priorities, and maybe make a more thoughtful decision.
I love that idea, Shelley. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Is everybody somewhat in agreement with that we can look forward to an email with this slide or with this presentation, and we can set a date maybe 2 weeks from tonight to have our
Sure. Yeah.
and then we can bring this up again as a topic. I really like this idea. Just a side note, a thought. Since we're looking at potentially a CAC, website and web pages around the city's website, are these trainings that may be similar to the emergency preparedness one that Victoria brought up? Are these able to be put into quick snippet videos that we're able to then load up there? So if somebody at some point in the future wanted to click on the video, watch the emergency preparedness thing, and do their own training at home on their own time, since we're already recording it, is that a possibility for us to do?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not sure, since it's another organization that's putting it on. I don't know how that would work, if we'd be able to share their presentations. We'd probably have to ask them about it.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on this particular subject?
I have.
Diane.
Thank you, Heidi, for all your information. And for later on. I love that idea of a fix-it fair. I like the idea of community gathering and making the resources stretch. And it sounds like a good community event. So I just say that.
I think that I find that interesting as well. Would that almost be like a community swap meet or something like that, where we would people bring stuff down? Is that what you mean? Like,
No, there were several items that pertain to that. What is it?
You know, I think they call it. I think they call the whole program the Fix It Fair. I don't know that there is a particular Fix It Fair, although they do have a subheading of that repair, borrow, and share. So I think that's interesting that you thought that, Diane, because I think that is a really good idea. In fact, I was just reading about Amsterdam is doing that citywide. But yeah, I don't know.
all right. Any other thoughts or comments before we table this to an item for next month?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Heidi.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's go on to discussion item B, Sandy Avenue project feedback.
All righty. So as those of you that got or looked at the packet saw, I sent out a memo about this. So I'll give a brief overview. So as I've talked about before, the City of Troutdale is partnering this year with University of Oregon's Sustainable City Year program. Working with them, they partner classes with students with various projects that are going on with the City of Troutdale. So students get really good, useful experience, and the city gets a lot of, additional capacity and creative ideas for projects that maybe we just, don't have enough people to dedicate to all the time. So one of those projects, it's actually through a PSU engineering class. They are taking a look at Sandy Avenue. And I actually have a quick presentation on it that I'll share. Let's just get that on here. I think it's going to be showing Heidi's, but let me get. That's one we just looked at. Let me pull up the other one. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So, Sandy Avenue, you all might even know this better than me if you've been around in Troutdale longer, but there's some long-term erosion concerns for Sandy Avenue. We don't know how much longer necessarily it can really be used at its full capacity. There's a lot of worries about it continuing to be a two-way street because of the hillside there. So we asked the PSU students to look at that and some possibilities for it moving forward. And they will be studying 4 alternatives and then developing, I believe it's 30% designs to present to us. And so they're going to be ranking the different alternatives on a variety of different metrics like cost, how long it'll last, environmental impact, public feedback, and a few others. And so as part of their public feedback, we thought what better than to bring it to the CAC and get input from you all on what you thought of these alternatives. I'll be taking some notes, and then I'll probably also send them the meeting recording so that they can hear the information firsthand from what you all think about these. So the 4 alternatives, one is redesigning Sandy Avenue to be a one-way street for cars and for it to be mixed use. So there can also be more access for pedestrians and bicycles. So dividing up the street so that they have their own dedicated space, and then there's a one-way path for vehicles. The second alternative is closure of the roads to most vehicles with limited access. So that limited access might be for emergency vehicles or perhaps in events like a snowstorm where people need a different route. Maybe then it would be open to regular cars. And then it would primarily be used for active modes of transportation, bicycles, pedestrians. If we ever get golf carts around here, perhaps those types of vehicles. So that would be the focus. The third alternative is a complete rebuild of the street so that it could still potentially be used for two-way vehicle traffic. And then the fourth alternative is the no build or no action. It would just stay the same as it is now, no changes. I've included here a map. It goes from 8th Street down the hill to 3rd Street. And then here are the images, and I apologize in the packet, they weren't super great quality. These are just some renderings that were included in a previous plan. I think it was from 2017, looking at some alternatives for Sandy Avenue. That plan wasn't like formally adopted or anything, so I just put those in there to kind of help your brain think about what it could look like with some different options. But this doesn't represent all of the alternatives and isn't, you know, binding by any means. So yeah, let me know what you all think.
Comments, questions? Victoria?
So we have no cost on any of these.
No, that's part of their study, but they don't have that information.
And how much is it driven on?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure what the traffic volumes are.
Yeah, because that's a big part of deciding which one of these you like, is how much would each of these cost and how much is it used right now and how is it used right now?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of bicycles on it? Are there more cars? Because that would help me in making a decision of which one to do.
Question that I had is when it says long-term erosion concerns, what study do we have? What look at this is showing that we're seeing active erosion, or is that, hey, maybe one day this could happen? I haven't noticed in the last 20 years any repairs done due to crumbling hills or erosion. I know there's that one spot, I think right at the end of 4th Street that pretty much like goes to a red and white barrier, and it's pretty steep right there. My question would be is what is the active erosion that we're seeing and the immediacy of a concern to make a decision on this?
Yeah, so there have been studies done on it that they're like public works documents, and we've had consultants go out and study the erosion concerns. Fortunately, I can't really interpret those documents because they're all very engineering, geotechnical heavy, and that's totally not my area. But it has, been known to the city. We've, been made aware that this is a legitimate concern. I'm not sure what the time frame is, whether it's, it's going to get really bad in 5 years or 10 years. I'm not sure the time frame on that, so that's a really good question. But it is definitely a capital improvement concern for the city that, yeah, this is gradually going to get worse.
And then just, anecdotally, just walking the street or driving it, there are areas that are definitely steep and areas that are not as steep. Is it like certain red zones that are like, high priority, and then other zones that are like, well, there's not really an issue here? Because that's a pretty large stretch between 3rd and 8th with varying topographies.
Yeah, and my understanding is that there is like definitely some areas where it's worse than others. I think this is just the area that they're studying, because if you're going to make it one way, right, you're not going to do it like just for a block or something. So I think that's why they're looking at the whole area. But yeah, there's definitely going to be variability in how bad it is.
Thank you. I think that would also, like Victoria said, if there's only really like one section, say like right there at the end of 4th Street, that is a concern, it's a small area that needs to be rebuilt, it might be less of a concern if the entire stretch needs to be rebuilt. And I think also to Victoria's point, the traffic, usage, I guess, what would be highest and best use.
Yeah.
Let's see, thoughts or comments? Heidi.
I have all the same questions that everyone else does. I went up there the other night I love driving on it, but I also don't feel like I have to drive on it if it's going to cost $1 million. So that was kind of one of my thinking. I'm very interested in what Councilor Krantz has to say since she actually lives there. I mean, that was my other thinking is like, I live on the bottom of this hill. I never have to go up there. So it doesn't really affect me. I want to know what the neighbors who live there think. But also when, especially when I'm looking at this map and remembering when our kid did go to Troutdale Elementary, like how much does having that elementary school there impact the need to have an extra road of egress there? Is that an emergency concern? Or, they can go west. There's lots of roads west. So maybe that doesn't matter at all, but it's just something that I think should be considered. Also, I think it'd be really cool if it was a bike and pedestrian only zone, but
Councilor Grant.
Yeah, so we live on basically Southeast 4th and Kibling. And, we don't have to use it as a primary access for our house. However, it is nice to have. I do use it frequently to get in and out. And I remember at the last city council meeting, Councilor White had mentioned that, during the snowstorm, that was the safest route to go up and down as opposed to going up and down Buxton. I'd be curious to see the numbers as well, like Victoria had mentioned on it. And I recall probably like 3 or 4 years ago when the 40-mile loop was a discussion point of trying to connect the Springwater Trail with the greater this metropolitan area. I think that the bicyclists had a lot of interest in it. And I think that, reducing it down to one-way access will be a reduction in vehicular traffic. I just don't know which way, up or down, makes the most sense. So that would be something that I'd like them to factor in. I know for us folks in the Hungry Hill neighborhood, I was a little bit I guess, upset when they changed the direction to one-way streets to increase parking downtown, because I apparently missed the flyer and I didn't know. So it was kind of a new, wait a minute, I can't go home this way. And I don't know, it was just hard to kind of adjust to, but we all adjusted to it. And, I think, again, it's kind of where the benefit lies. I'd like to see more of those renderings, though. When you look down at those two, because you see one that has almost like a guardrail that, maybe something that reinforces the bank there or not. And I'm happy that we're partnering with the universities to get this conversation rolling. And I think that, right now it's just kind of too early to tell what's the best path for this. But just quick point of clarification. This is City of Troutdale owns Sandy Avenue, correct? Yep, exactly. Just double checking, because that sometimes is something that we, look at between county versus city. So this would be a completely city cost, which is another factor. Like Heidi had mentioned, for $1 million, I can take a different road, So I think that, as we get more information, it'll help with the decision-making process.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I saw Alexander first, and then David, and then Diane.
Well, I like the idea of mixed use, especially if you can make it a path for bicycles and pedestrians. And I think that if the way to maintain it is to not maintain it and do that, but it would be great if it wasn't isolated. So if you could make it a pedestrian bicycle path and tie it into something else so that it didn't just stop at 3rd Street, but it could go down to the river. There was some way to extend it so that people bicycling across Troutdale ending up on 8th could go all the way down Sandy, the bicycle parkway, to get someplace else. I think that would be great too. It is a huge stretch. I mean, if you just look at it like this, the last time that we were walking on it together, there were several people struggling on bicycles getting up, which I would never do, but and we're doing it. So I think that was cool. There were also cars there, but I have all the concerns that everyone else has too. I want to know how long this erosion idea is and I want to know how many people use it compared to, say, any of the other Harlow, for example. So what if we're really destroying a major route, it might not be feasible, but I like the idea of adding more recreation paths and making this eventually tie into something else would be great, especially if the confluence is down there. This could be an easy way to zip right to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Or excuse me, sorry, David.
Oh,
and,
yeah, David.
Okay, I'm going next then. Okay. I'm having some issues with this because I think it's asking the wrong question. I'm hearing two different issues. We have an erosion issue and we have a road use issue. And I don't know where the erosion issues are, first place, and I don't know how bad they are. So I'm glad to hear that the city's done studies on the erosion. It's just that we're not privy to them right now. And for example, if the erosion was a big problem behind the grade school, I'd have a major concern with that. And when, from a public safety point of view, I'd want to make sure the erosion is dealt with, whatever it does to the street. Because I wouldn't want to see that school in jeopardy. And I don't know if the road use is enough. If there's a big erosion problem, are other houses along that road in jeopardy? I don't know how big a scope this thing is. And I just need more information. From a road use point of view, it's already a bike lane. It's meant to connect from the existing bike path and down by the railroad park, which I assume the city eventually wants to accommodate. Otherwise, they'd have to take that route somewhere else and somehow figure out to get it south. So that's another important issue, but it also, from a public safety point of view, there has to be a roadway there for public access for police and fire, particularly with the grade school there. You can't close that off. So I agree with all the conversations right now. I just got to have more information on where the erosion is and how big a deal it is.
Let's go to Diane and then Councilor Grant.
Okay, I had a lot of the same issues as David and others, so I had also underlying long-term erosion concerns. So I also would like the timeline, because I'm thinking if stability was an imminent issue, then why was a home allowed to be built on that lot? And then I am also concerned with the other homes, because if there's some erosion and instability going on that just is natural, then I would assume it would be a risk to a lot of that hillside as well. But I'm not an engineer, and it'd be nice to know the information on the report so we could make an informed decision. Observation is I don't see anybody going fast on that road. I prefer that road because it's just aesthetically gorgeous. And I do see people walk. I've used the sidewalk a lot, and I've seen different modes of people use that, and all slowly and never a line of cars. So just saying it just seems to, it kind of to me reminds me of a residential preferred use, because instead of being on Buxton where it's dense and there's lines at the bottom of the hill, that it's like, why go that way when you could just enjoy, take a slow ride and take a look. So again, we need more information, because I hear about the entire hill, just as David and I'm sure others do.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in real quick. And again, yeah, I'm not an engineer either, so I haven't gone through all the reports or anything. But It certainly hasn't been made aware to me that we have any concerns for the houses or surrounding properties. So I think for now, the main focus is on the road, and it's because of the car usage that is increasing the erosion. At least that's been kind of my understanding, and that's why there's the thought, well, if it's only one way, or if it's there's not very much car usage, then that would really limit the amount of erosion because there wouldn't be as much usage on the road. But yeah, again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't have all the information correctly. But that's why. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been made aware of so far. If that helps anyone.
Thank you. I think we saw Councilor Grant.
Yeah, I kind of really like the idea that Diane just mentioned, maybe about considering at least residential preferred topic. But then I also want to bring up something specific to Southeast 4th Street, which was last year we went through a process to, or the city went through a process of creating one side, the north side, to be basically no parking for fire lane. Because I know my house was built in 1927, and when it was built, it wasn't built for some of the density that we see to the east, which is actually adjacent to Sandy Avenue right there. There's the 3 duplexes between 3rd and 4th. And so they oftentimes have a lot of extra vehicles that tend to park on the roads. And so it was one of those things that I kind of learned when I talked with the city a little bit more about the fact that we don't necessarily look at the width of the roads, and there are situations where they should be perhaps a fire lane on one side for emergency use. So I know that was looked at again for 4th because the topic was brought up and then the change happened. But I don't know if we wanted to look into some of the other ones if they needed to be. I don't think that they do. I think 3rd might already have. It just doesn't have. There's no cars between Harlow and Sandy really that ever park. I don't even think there's parking there or available. But maybe those just topics that are maybe antiquated design pieces that might be, I guess, just important as we're going through this review process to think about and consider. I even though I've walked that Sandy Ave stretch many, many times, like I'm always on that west side and I don't really look over the cliff because it's scary. So I have kind of no idea what that looks like, even where, Chair Knight had said that, where 4th perpendiculars with Sandy, where those red and white kind of emergency hatch marks are, it just looks like a pretty steep cliff. So I don't see Sandy Avenue ever really going down to historic Columbia River Highway based on the terrain. It's pretty much a cliff right there, but I can't really tell how bad it is, I guess.
Thank you. I will mention for disclosure, I do have a dog in the fight here, so to speak. I have property or my house backs up against Sandy. That being said, I haven't made up my mind on anything, and I'm open to looking at all ideas and alternatives. Just in general, to come on what Councilor Crane just said, I would imagine that like in the corner there for 3rd, like right about the end of 4th is probably the area that is most concerned. The rest of the street, I don't really know if there's too much of a slope. It tends to go out a ways further before it tends to go up. Traffic, I would imagine, just anecdotally, is generally pretty light, and there's a lot more walkers and bicyclists, and very rarely I'd imagine it happens where 2 cars are coming across each other. It's generally pretty light use, I would imagine, just anecdotally. Someone had brought up Springwater Trail before, and the idea that this potentially might be a connection in there. And just from my recollection, I know a lot of people were concerned about having this potentially be a piece that was attached to Springwater Corridor with a brand new flagship school right there. And that Sandy Avenue could potentially be Springwater Trail, basically right behind our brand new elementary school. I do remember that conversation. Other than that, I think I would also be in agreement, more information, kind of seeing maybe where the hot zones of erosion are, and seeing what these hopefully brilliant kids can come up with for us. Any other thoughts or comments? Any public comment? We'll give it a beat, count to 3, and then ask that we maybe, if there's more information on this for next month, as far as any additional information.
I might be able to provide more. The only thing is, since they're only working on this project for the rest of their term.
Okay.
And let's see, I think PSU, I went to U of O, so I know the U of O schedule, but I think the PSU engineering students have a different timeline. So I think they're working on the project throughout the term, which would go, I think, to the end of June. So if there isn't more information I can provide, I will. But I know they were kind of, as far as their different metrics and the public feedback part, they wanted to get information from this meeting specifically for their timeline, but
Sure.
if there's updates, I can certainly provide it.
Then-
And if this is like a project that continues to move forward, I'm sure there will be plenty more, opportunities for public feedback on it.
This is more just kind of an introduction.
Yeah, this is like the very beginnings of it. Yeah.
And then is the idea then when they are finished in June, then to bring this back and kind of share the information, or is?
They do have a final presentation. I can see if that's something they could do, or if we could invite you all to it. They have it specifically scheduled during their like finals time, but I can see what the options are there. Yeah.
Yes, please put this in the loop on that. Okay, any other last thoughts or comments?
Jamie.
Jeannie, Ms. Grant, or
Yeah, one last thought might be in terms of public input, maybe reaching out to some of the residents, on Hungry Hill area, because that's the missing piece here. Or more of the residents, I should say.
excellent, thank you. Okay, give it just another second here before we move on. Okay, seeing no other hands, let's move on to discussion item C, Task for Public Safety and Equity Committee.
All right, so I've got some slides on this one too. Sorry, this one has a lot of text on it. So as you all have probably heard and we've talked about before, there will be the new Public Safety and Equity Committee. I think actually next slide is more helpful. There is, and there will be an upcoming recruitment for the committee. So at the same time that, CAC and Planning Commission, Parks Advisory Committee, all of the committees are recruiting, there will also be recruitment for the new committee. So far, we don't know of any bylaws that are for it yet. So what we wanted to do is bring a couple questions to you all, because I know we've talked about a lot of public safety issues in the CAC. And so we wanted to get feedback from you all on potential things that perhaps the Public Safety and Equity Committee could work on, and other questions related to it. So I've got a few questions here, and then I can go back to the previous slide, which shows the text in the municipal code for kind of their mission. So some questions to consider are, what should this committee be tasked with? What should things that they focus on be? Are there, things specifically that the CAC has been handling that perhaps could be passed to the committee, or things that you all have thought about working on but might be more appropriate for them? And then some more kind of logistical questions. One that has been brought up before is, should the number of members on the CAC committee be reduced with this new committee coming online? And some of the thought process behind that is, with another committee, there might be members of the CAC who want to be on that one, but maybe, 2 committees is too much to do. And we want to be able to have full committees. So if we don't have enough participation, it might be difficult with that many committees to have them all be full. So perhaps the CAC numbers, it might make sense to have fewer than 11 people, maybe 9 or 7 instead, in order to make sure we have 2 full committees. So just, some thoughts thrown out there to see what you all think about it. And then lastly, who should staff the committee? So right now, I believe it's been proposed to have Multnomah County Sheriff's Office staffing and running the committee. But is that what makes the most sense? I don't know. So all some things to consider, and I'll navigate back to this page. So this is what is in the municipal code for the Public Safety and Equity Advisory Committee. For those of you that are joining us that maybe don't have access to a screen, I think I will read it out loud. So I'm sorry that it's kind of long and that might be annoying to listen to, but I'll go ahead and do that just so everyone knows what it says. So 2.20.120, Public Safety and Equity Advisory Committee, A. The Public Safety and Equity Advisory Committee is created and charged with evaluating and making recommendations to the city's elected and appointed officials on matters relating to public safety, including law enforcement, fire, and medical services. Included in this charge is that the committee make recommendations that may be necessary to ensure that all of these public services are provided in a fashion that ensures equity, regardless of a person's race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, national origin, marital status, age, disability, and other classes protected under Oregon statutes. The committee is not charged with reviewing use of force complaints or citizens' complaints against public safety personnel. B. The committee shall meet at times deemed necessary by the committee. However, they will meet at least once per quarter. C. The committee will be a committee of 9 members. The city council shall endeavor to appoint a Troutdale business owner, a Troutdale multifamily housing resident, a Reynolds School District employee, and a high school or college student, as well as members at large. All members of the committee will also be a resident and elector of the city or a Troutdale business owner, except in the event that a high school student who is not an elector is appointed. And finally, D, the committee shall also perform any other duties or functions assigned by the council. Those duties shall be specified by motion or resolution of the council. In this regard, the committee operates to provide policy guidance to the council on matters of public safety and equity, and to act as a liaison between public safety and interest groups and the city's elected and appointed officials. So with that, I'll go ahead back to the questions and open it all up to you for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Amber. I appreciate that.
Drink of water after.
Let's go ahead and open up for discussion. Do we have any thoughts or comments that would like to begin with? I see Diane's hand.
To the question, should the number of members of CAC be reduced in order to maintain full committees? I just like to say, as for me, the size of the CAC that we've been having is robust, and then there's a lot of different people it just works well. We communicate. There's a lot of different observations. A lot of us live in different parts of the city, and I don't know how long I've been on this committee. Rizzo, how long have you been on?
I think since 2006.
Okay, but people have come and they go, and it's just, I just enjoy the fullness of the committee for conversation purposes and different pieces of information and that each individual provides.
Thank you, Diane. And not to comment on a yes or no on that, but I'm seeing that 4 out of the 9 are specified as a business owner, a multifamily, a Reynolds employee, and then a school district employee, and then a high school student, which you'd have to go out and basically like prospect and try to talk people into doing that. So I imagine that's going to be a workload there, assuming, we'll see, I guess, when we open it up, but that would basically mean 5 members at large from the community is what they'd be looking for. Thank you for bringing that up, Annie. Chris, and then Victoria.
So regarding what Diane said, I just wanted to second that. I agree with what she said, but I was also wondering with that particular question, why is it the CAC specifically?
I think it's just because of how many members there are on the CAC. With 11, that's a fairly large number, and I think we've heard interest in CAC members who might want to be on this committee, and maybe that's too many committees for them. I don't know. So it's just an idea. You all don't have to think it's a good one or not. We just wanted to throw it out there. So yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. I guess it just sounded strange because I don't know what the size of the other committees are. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Planning Commission, I believe, is 7. and then, anyone else on the call who knows about the other committees can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the CAC is the largest committee.
Parks and then historic landmarks with the other two.
Yeah, and I think they're both smaller, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not as involved in those committees.
And I want to also say good job to the group for doing such a good job getting out there and trying to create interest in our committee to the point where it's full and people are saying, well, we want to pull people from you. So I do want to commend you guys for all your hard work in the last couple of years of getting out and letting people know about us and getting people excited about joining. Victoria.
We did have a safety committee before. So, and some people did both CAC and safety. And like you said, this time there's going to be 4 designated people that won't be at large. And we, like Will just said, we do have a full committee right now. I know they won't have any trouble filling the new public safety committee, because that's always, I've been told year after year, that's the most popular one to get on. So, and that had always the most applications to it. So I'm happy to keep us, I'm with Diane. We have a good committee right now. I like the number 11. We can get more done in different areas and, like she said, different neighborhoods. I think the staffing sounded good. Just get those people at large. I want to see how we get the high school student, but.
One, you mentioned, thank you for bringing that up and reminding me, public safety, and then Heidi after me, after my comment. When it was the public safety committee before, there was basically a liaison from the Multnomah County Sheriff's that was here and kind of staffed the meeting, similar to what Amber does for us. And then also the sheriffs were also involved, and I had somebody here that was very, transition oriented, I think, from Troutdale Police to Multnomah County Sheriff. One of the main things this group is tasked with is police, law enforcement and fire. Is it appropriate to have somebody a part of this committee from those two entities to be able to go back with questions, to get answers for the group, or potentially answer questions there at that point? I feel like the more cohesiveness between those units or those things, the more that can be done, rather than it being a group that says, hey, we have these issues and we're kind of blindsided. It's more of a discussion from everybody, all the stakeholders. Just wanted to mention that. Heidi, you had your hand up.
I did, but I did notice that Shelley had hers up. Does she want to go first?
Thank you, Heidi. So back to the discussion to reduce committee members. I just want to kind of, city council members, we are here to support you as well, but our primary objective is to represent the citizens of Troutdale in exactly these types of committees and for the city council. And I think that having a broader spectrum of members, more members, is important to this committee, just to properly represent the citizens. There's a huge broad spectrum of citizens and residents in this community, and I think the more members that are on CAC, the better represented the citizens of Troutdale are.
Thank you, Shelley. Heidi and then David.
So I have a number of thoughts. I know that either Alexander or I are being kicked off this committee in June anyway, so part of this might be moot. So one of us is gonna have to go. I'm probably gonna put my hat in for public safety. I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to have an internship at that point, so we'll see what's happening. But it makes me very nervous to think about the sheriff's office being the staff liaison for this, because I think that will very severely limit the people that are interested in participating. I think it would be more beneficial to have a different office host it, and then the sheriffs are going to be part of the conversation, but not hosting it, because I think that sets a very specific tone, and it could be silencing, and I don't think that that's the goal. So I feel pretty strongly about that. I think one of the things that the committee should be tasked with is alternatives to policing for public safety in our community. Portland just rolled out the Portland street response team, which is modeled after Eugene's Cahoots program, which is something that if everyone doesn't know about yet, you should definitely look into. It's called the Portland Street Response Team, and Troutdale is very small compared to that, but I think that there are some things that we could do on a micro scale here that would be appropriate. Because as we've all mentioned, we don't have our own police force anymore. It is the Multnomah County Sheriff's, and I think, to my earlier point of community building, I think the more we can take care of each other and, build our own personal community capacity for taking care of each other so that we don't have to call the police for every little thing, I think would be a benefit to all of us, including the police, so that they have the time to go to the true emergencies when those happen. So that's what I'd like to see this committee be about. And because the committee is also the equity committee, I'm wondering, and I know that this is tricky because of the law, but I don't want all white people on this committee. And I don't know how we can regulate that or how we can really prioritize that, but I think it's key. And I know that our recent demographic research in Troutdale is showing that we have a growing Latin population. And I think, that needs to be represented. I think that's important. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Eddie. Very good comments. Just to clarify, I would also agree with that. I do not want it to be hosted by the sheriff, so that be the liaison. I would also agree that it was potentially a bit intimidating the way that it was previously. I just was merely presenting the idea that if there may be somebody, even if it's just an administrative person, to be a part of the conversation, to be able to have an ear and then answer questions, come back with answers to things that were brought up in the meetings, whether it be law enforcement or fire or what. That was more my thought about it. Okay, I think we saw David, and then Councilor Grant, and then.
Thank you. Following up on Heidi's discussion, I agree with almost everything she said. As a personal note, I've found that our newest members have provided what I would consider invaluable insight to a lot of our discussion. So I will be sad today you are not on our committee. It will leave a hole. My personal recommendation would be not to have a public safety officer as the lead of the committee. I think that will adversely steer conversation, inadvertently perhaps, away from other topics. And let me clarify that by saying words matter. And the words that were being presented here are the words public safety. I'm specifically pointing to that because I think people mean police. And if it's police, I don't have that much problem. But if it's public safety, I have a lot of problems because safety is more than just police members. And I found different people as you talked about public safety using the word police as you were having that conversation. And because if it's equity issues around police, great, go for it. But if we're really concerned about public safety of Troutdale, there are a lot more safety issues. And we've talked about this as a committee before, about safety issues around the community, why they're important for emergency preparedness and things like that. So I have a whole list of other things that should go to this committee that are not police related. So I think the scope of the committee is in error. I think it should be redefined to say what it is and what it isn't. Because if it's public safety, let's look big picture. That's what I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Councilor Krantz and then Alexander.
Yeah, so I have a handful of things. Recently Troutdale has added the position of the community resources officer, and I think that may be a place to link the public safety and equity committee with the police staff. I hear a lot of lack of support to have the police department be the staff, which that makes sense to me. I know when we were doing our town center meetings, there were a handful of comments that came out just saying that people might not be 100% comfortable participating in these conversations that are being hosted at the police facility, and maybe trying to relocate some of those conversations so people feel a little bit more comfortable getting involved. But I think that, having a link between police and fire, and specifically, I'm kind of going to dovetail into tasks more, looking at like river safety and AMR. We lost that program because of pandemic, because we weren't able to get people trained up fast enough. I guess there's a variety of different reasons why we didn't have them, and I don't know where we're at with the status on that. But I know that river safety, in terms of people not dying on the river, that's a concern that's going to be an issue that I think will be part of the task list. And although it's outside of our city, I believe that the 1,000 acres property is an issue that affects the livability in the downtown core and potentially our urban renewal area. And I would like the Public Safety Committee and Equity to get and dive into that, basically. And then going into the equity element of the Public Safety and Equity Committee, we are seeing a demographic shift here in Troutdale with our population. And I know when I served as a board member for the Friends of the Library for Multnomah County. And when I was working with that group of people, one of the issues as we see, across the country, there is a lot of division in regards to equity and inclusion. And one of the things with our board is that, we look at the demographics of the board members, and we recognize that the board members didn't necessarily reflect the population of library goers. And it was a challenge for us to kind of grapple with, how do we have more involvement from more of the population that is actually really at the library, utilizing the library. How do we encourage and invite and include diversity, basically, at the board level? So I think that that's going to be a question that it is important for our city to come up to the times, in terms of asking these questions, engaging more with the BIPOC population. And I don't have a definition or set protocol on that. And I think that's something to be developed with that group when they get there, and with other groups too, CAC, City Council. I had a quick question about, Amber, on those bylaws. Were those the old public safety, or was those the new ones? Is that a recent, what is the date on those?
Yeah, so the one that I read out loud?
Yes, yeah, yep.
That, I'm not sure if it was the old one, but that is what Sarah, the city reporter, sent to me.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much it has changed, but that's what.
Yeah. Yeah, and one last thing, I know that calling out, having the connection with Reynolds High School, that's something that we are definitely lacking, I feel like, is that connection with Reynolds High School. And I believe that, Reynolds is the second largest high school in the state, and the amount of diversity that is within the population there, I feel disconnected with the city and the city groups from Reynolds in a lot of ways. And I'd like to somehow use this group or have this group work to bridge that connection with, and I know that Reynolds is beyond Troutdale, so that's a piece of the puzzle that we're working with too. Reynolds goes, all the way into Portland, parts of Gresham and other areas, not just Troutdale. But those are some of my thoughts. But I do think it is important to link the services such as police, fire, AMR.
Thank you. We got Alexander and then Heidi and then Councilor Lance.
Hi, thank you. I agree with everything that has been said to this point. I believe that the Public Safety and Equity Committee, especially the equity part of it, would be more successful the less there is a police presence. People of color don't feel safe around the police. And if the police could get the notes from the committee meeting, I think that would be enough. So I would love to see diversity on all the committees. And my second point is that I'm not sure why the idea of reducing the CAC membership is important, when it seems to me what should be done is to recruit more people to more committees. We're not running out of people in Troutdale. So we could fill committees if we were able to recruit more to any committee that we developed. And I think the Equity Committee would be an opportunity to recruit not just more people to a committee without having to shave people off another committee, but to include something of the demographic of Troutdale. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Heidi and then Councilor Lance.
I have a feeling that one of the reasons they said that is because it was hard to get quorum on these committees, and that's. But as you say, perhaps we need to work harder to make it known why people should join, so that they know that their time is well spent. What was I going to say? Oh, I had something. Sandy, can you go and then I'll hopefully think of it?
Yep, I had two quick things. I've had the opportunity to take some inclusion type training. And one of the things that kind of beat us over the head with is, ask people of color what they want. Don't presume anything. Ask them what they want. Reach out, say, here's what we have. Is this something you want to be involved in? If so, how can we make it easier for you? That type of a thing. And then the other item, I know I'm kind of a broken record on this, but we also have Barlow in our school. And I think we forget about them, and they're on a totally different schedule. So like all the Troutdale events and recreation all fit to the days off and, times of school that Reynolds has, not to Barlow. So there's a fair amount of kids out here on the south end of Troutdale that go to Barlow Hall, Gordon Wessel. So it'd be nice to make sure that, occasionally they knew what we were doing too.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I got it. So I think I know of some awesome student leaders at Reynolds. I don't really know them personally, but I've met them in some activist circles. And I think that if we reached out to them, if they don't want to join, they'll know people who do. So I can look into that. Also, I want to appreciate that the required members do recognize class diversity by making sure that at least one of the people on it is from an apartment or a multifamily housing place. So I appreciate that. I think that's a really good idea. I didn't know Barlow existed. Thank you for that. And I saw on Mayor Lauer's Facebook page that he's championing a new skateboard park over by Imagination Station. I don't know if championing is the appropriate word, but he was out there listening. So I think there are some cool inroads to reaching out to the youth, and I think that's a really positive direction, and I love it.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments? Councilor Grant.
Yeah, I think that, on the question about reducing the size of the committee, I worked on the subcommittee that did some of the revisions so we can have a more streamlined process with our volunteer group. And I think that there's a question here that's underlying, which is who's going to staff the committee. Well, we've, gotten the feedback that it's not going to be the police department, which makes sense because it's an oversight committee where you're wanting to, I guess, basically just oversight with making sure that you're having equitable practices happening at all levels, including police. I mean, is it going to fall with the city manager or the community development department? We really have a limited staff side. And so I think that that is a piece of the puzzle that's trying to be questioned, really, is who's going to staff this committee. And I agree that it is uncomfortable for increased involvement if you have a police presence, but how are we going to link this group or the information with that group? How are you going to bridge that? Okay, if you say like we don't want police officers here at all, okay, but how do you bridge that?
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments? Given to be here, any public comments? Okay, seeing none, thank you everyone. Appreciate that discussion. Let's go ahead and move on to D. And before we get there, I'll just recognize the time as being 8:37. Trying to keep on our 9-ish timeline. Let's keep that in mind. I believe D is going to be a follow-up discussion regarding Tim's statement that he brought to the team and maybe some revisions potentially. I'm assuming we're gonna, I'll let you go ahead, Amber.
I don't have a presentation for this one.
Tim?
Yeah, I'll let Tim take it away.
Hi, everybody. Well, I did what you asked and streamlined things and simplified things. So I've got that and I sent Amber a copy already. Would you like to share it, Amber, or I can hear? Either way.
Pulled up, you can go ahead.
Okay. So once again, we were looking at some thoughts about how we can make sure that our budget process is open and that there's time available for those who, for people to think about it and get back to the committee, that we have enough input and that things aren't, pushed through quickly. And so I presented something that a number of us had been talking about last time, and then I made some adjustments. So here is the adjusted statement from 2 paragraphs down to 1 paragraph. And can you see that there?
Yep.
So the city of Troutdale has been extremely fortunate to have had quality leadership and direction in its endeavors in recent years in order to help assure continued confidence in our future financial planning and to provide adequate time for members of the Budget Committee and members of the public to provide appropriate insight. Once each year's newly proposed budget has been prepared and made available to members of the Budget Committee, the City of Troutdale Citizens Advisory Committee recommends that the city's Budget Committee meet on at least 2 separate occasions when considering the upcoming annual budget before recommendation is made to the Troutdale City Council. So there it is. I think I got everything in that was suggested. I know that one was the issue of, sometimes the budget committee will meet before the budget is prepared. So getting in 2 meetings after the budget has been made public, or at least to budget committee members. And I took out the stuff dealing with the 10% increase that we had this last year and that kind of stuff. One of the questions was, should this be a recommendation to the budget committee or should this be to the city council? And that's one reason why we're so thankful to have city council members here tonight as to what you think might be appropriate. A number of us are on the budget committee, but as came up in the discussion, the committee doesn't meet very often. And so just in terms of planning for the future, how can we help make sure that, there's opportunity for appropriate input? Any thoughts or comments or suggestions?
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you bringing this back, bringing it last month, bringing it back with the revisions. So open up the discussion. I see Victoria with her hand up.
Okay, as I've said in the other meetings, last year was a fluke that we just had one budget committee meeting. We are always scheduled for 2 after we receive the budget. COVID was just coming in. We got everything done. We had public notice. Public was allowed to come and say what they needed to say. I really don't think this is something that's necessary that we do, because the budget committee already does it. That, like I said, other years I've been there and it just hasn't been 2 days, it's been 4 days, it's been late at night. That was just a fluke last year. So I don't really think that we need to present anything about this because it's already taken care of. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I don't know if it was a fluke. It was done by design. This year, they've already given us 2 dates because I think they did get a fair amount of feedback from both budget committee members and members of the public that it didn't seem reasonable to cover that much in one night.
Yeah, but we've always done it more than 2 nights every year. I mean, and we're always scheduled at least 2 nights. And every year we're told it may go longer. And Kenny can talk to this too, because he's been on it a while. And that was very unusual that we just had 1 night that night, wasn't it?
I agree with Victoria, and I want Tanny to speak to this, please, because I think similarly it was a unique time.
Yeah, I guess I would say budget's kind of an interesting animal. The budget committee works really hard for a very short period of time. Budget comes out, it's usually about 300 and some odd pages, and they've got a matter of days, if not a week, to go through that document kind of line by line prior to the meeting. I will say, though, it is a hard quorum committee. So basically, it takes 8 votes to do anything. There's 14 on the committee, and no matter how many you have in the room, you have to have 8 votes to do something. And when it comes to things like meetings, you're right. Sometimes they go fast, sometimes they go slow, but there's about an hour and a half worth of statutory things that the committee gets each year. And so carve that out of your timeline, because that stuff is going to get done. And then you kind of get into the crux of the budget and the documents and the departments and those types of things. I'll also say it varies from committee to committee. There are some committees that really feel it should be done in 1 night or 2 nights. I've actually had members not attend meetings because they felt it should have been done in less nights. So if there's a second or a third meeting, sometimes people will be absent as a statement of that this is taking longer than it should. But again, we all serve at the pleasure of the council, and we all serve on a committee, and it takes an entire committee to make a decision.
Thank you, Danny.
You bet.
Councilor Grimes.
I do like the spirit of this message, because I do think that, with such an important topic, it is good to really think about it, really get all your questions out. And, like Tammy had just mentioned, one of the different things that we did with the 2020 budget committee was we had, Eric Mueller, the finance director, pre-record some of those statutory issues, some of those pieces. So that actually reduced the in-meeting time that we had seen in the past. So I think that was part of the efficiency notice. And I will say that, our last mayor, Casey Ryan, he was all about efficiency. Like, bam, 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 let's get it done. Let's go home. Let's do this. Let's go home. And I think, when you have changes in leadership, it gives you the wiggle room to see if things are working or if they're not. And I think it's maybe more of a memo for the council than a hard, fast, hey, it has to be a minimum of 2 nights, because nobody had a plan for pandemic occurring right at the peak before our budget meeting. And I think all of us were scrambling with what are we doing right now? And, here we are a year later with a little bit more time to think, but, you do just remember, for some of the newer members who had just jumped on budget committee, that it was a different session than it has been in the past. I mean, we've had 2 meetings minimum, just as standard, maybe going to the 3rd, where everyone's really trying to work hard to get everything done by that 2nd meeting. And, recognizing we may need to go to the 3rd, but that usually is a more typical cycle. I think this is coming up on my 5th year on budget committee, maybe. So of the 4 years prior, that was a different, pandemic year was just different.
And I was going to say, you want to go, Sandy?
Go for it.
Okay. I was going to say one thing, that I'd heard about before is Gresham gets their budget done in one night. Well, Gresham has a finance committee that meets monthly. So it's kind of comparing an apple to an orange there a little bit. That's not really the same comparison as this. And budget's really tough, guys, because you always hear about, well, if staff needs something, they're going to ask for it, and we shouldn't be questioning what staff is asking for. We're kind of belittling them by asking them questions about their budget. And the only thing I can say to that is there is one oversight for the 55 million, and it's the budget committee. That's it. And so really, I think it's kind of an honor and a responsibility to be spending other people's money. And I think, everybody just has to look at this for what it is. It's like sometimes we ask more questions, sometimes we ask less. But the questions need to get asked and need to get answered. And I think, and people have heard me say this before, is I don't care if it takes 1 night or it takes 8 nights. At the end of the day, the citizens have an expectation of that group. And that's really what needs to be upheld. And, if we need to push the council to do something like that, then so be it. And if we don't, maybe we don't have to. But I just want to stress, it certainly with me, it's not a personal thing. It's a committee thing. If the committee wants to go longer and have more meetings or less meetings, that's really a decision they make. And council is certainly part of the committee. Go ahead, Sandy.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I was unhappy about last year, it was my first year on budget committee, was that we were encouraged to ask our questions beforehand. And I didn't think that was a good way for the committee to have good ideas in terms of, maybe someone else didn't even think of that question, but when they heard it, it'd be like, oh, wow, I should have thought of that. Great. And that would lead on to something else. I did like how, we could do the regulatory stuff in advance. I think that makes sense. But I think that we need at least 2 days, even if they're short days, to be able to kind of ponder what we've heard. I don't think you can just walk in cold, having looked at materials and say, okay, got it. I think they're, part of the whole process for having a committee that has members of the public is to be able to have discourse and hear everybody else's questions and, you know, get better feedback. I have nothing against, you know, the professionals that put that together, but in order to do our job, I think we need more time.
One of the related questions that came up in the discussion was the understanding that there are some contracts coming up this year, and Tanny, maybe you or some of the council members can speak to this a little bit. Is there any public representation in terms of looking at some of these issues with employment contracts that are going to be long-term? Is it the budget committee? Is there the members of the city council? Is there any group that is privy to those kinds of things?
I guess I'll start. It depends on what it is. Okay, so like if it's a labor contract, those get negotiated, and then that information usually goes to the council in the form of an executive session. And then they typically will make a determination on whether that contract is going to be accepted by the city or not. And that's usually how those go. And then you look at other contracts, like one would be our fire contract with Gresham Fire, goes 10 years. And I always think sometimes that the budget committee should look at it and say, you know what? We want a subcommittee to look at X because this contract's up in 2 years and we're not really sure we want to date these people anymore, let alone marry them. And we might want to go a different direction. And so, you know, a subcommittee could look at something and bring back a recommendation to the committee. Because the problem is, you may not like the fire contract, but if you're in the last year and it's in April, you don't have any other options. You're stuck with that, you know, with that, whether you want to do something or not. So usually it helps to get in front of these things if you possibly can.
Good, thank you. Anyone else?
Diane, and then Victoria, and then Chris.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say I enjoy going to the budget meetings. I'm a citizen, so I like to see how my money's being spent. I do have a husband on council, and I do notice that a lot of times good questions come up overnight. It's something like you guys are tasked with a hard task and you might not be able to think of everything on the spot. But when you go home and you're spending a lot of money, when you buy a car, you should go home first and think about it and see if that's the wisest choice, and then come back the next day. I don't advise anybody to spend money the day, you know, that day. Let's see what else. So I understand that 2 days has been typical, but as a president, I don't think it's a bad idea to make a recommendation that 2 days be a suggestion for good vetting and also for all citizenry's questions to be answered. Because I've even seen it on council meetings. Sometimes I ask my husband, why'd you think of this? Why'd you? He goes, I didn't think about that. That's a good question. If you have just that overnight thing, maybe a citizen will call you up that was there, and I've asked questions at those meetings. But again, stuff comes up later on, not necessarily that day on the spot. So I was not here at the last meeting, and I think this is a good suggestion. Us being representing the citizenry and understanding that that's our tax dollars, and extra vetting is good. I understand we have some fabulous experts, but if people don't get to the council or the citizenry don't get to ask the questions, then why does the staff just come up with all the answers? Why do we need the committee, the budget committee, or why do we need the citizenry as well? So vetting, everything is proper, as all good conversations are with more participants, including those that it affects, which is us as citizenry. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to say, because last the last couple meetings, everybody was interested in how it works and everything. And I told you about going to Oregon.gov local budget. Well, I'm taking their classes and they're all virtual, of course. Usually I had to sit there a whole day. Now you just have to sit there a couple hours, a few days. Anyway, so I asked them if they could put them online, and they said they were hoping and planning to, and they did get them online. So if you want to go, and it tells you step by step everything that the budget committee does, and that'll help you. And like I said in all the other meetings, and like Diane says, I think it's great that the public comes and speaks. And the budget's posted, and then you can go through it. You don't get your own copy, but you can go online and get it and go through it and come ask any questions you want. And probably if we would have had a lot of public there last year, we would have gone to this. But we went longer. We didn't just get it done in a lot of time either. So I just wanted to let you know, that was a fluke. I've been on the budget committee for quite a while now, and that never happened before. But I do understand, and I do that too. I go home and think, doggone, I should have asked that question. So it is nice to have it 2 nights, but like I said, that was just odd, and the pandemic was just in the beginnings. So anyway.
All right, I know we need to wrap this up.
Chris,
One thing to keep in mind is that this is just a recommendation. It's, has no force enforcement issue or anything. So I'd like to bring this as a motion. If someone is willing to second it, we could vote on it.
Let's back up here a sec. I want to come back to Victoria's comment real quick. Thank you for advancing education. It sounds like really good information. That link that was provided. Would you be able to send that to Amber so she can distribute that to the group?
sure.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to Chris, and then I see Jamie.
It's in the minutes too.
And then I also have a statement as well. So let's go to Chris and then Councilor France.
Well, so I guess what I was thinking about this is that I think in large part, I think I tend to agree with what Victoria said, because although I'm not on the budget committee for this city, I have had other experience with budgets. And besides the fact that the pandemic really caused everything to get screwy, I've also seen where a budget can be pretty fluid, and it can vary from year to year the amount of time it might take, whereas one year you might have a lot of changes and a lot of things to discuss and cover, while other years it might be pretty similar and it might not take as long, but at the same time, as Victoria said, it is set up to have at least a couple meetings already, so it's like we're suggesting what's already there, so that doesn't really make sense to me either.
Thank you, Chris. Councilor Grants.
I really like what Councilor Glantz mentioned about the questions in advance, because on one note, you can see it as an efficiency piece where people can ask the director of finance their questions before the meetings, but in the other, you lose out on that synergy of the meeting that you build upon, where you, like Councilor had said, you think about, they say something, oh yeah, well, that makes me think about this. So I'd like to have visibility for, I like to see the questions be in a public visibility mode. So maybe if they get sent in advance, they get addressed at the meeting or something, so that they're not, that they're just available for everybody in the more public type of scenario. That's my tidbit.
Thank you. I want to make a statement, and I'll let Councilor Vines go. My thought on this is more from the optics of it. When this first came up, I kind of heard the headline of the tweet that, that sort of like provocative statement that Troutdale wanted to raise their budget by 10% during a pandemic. And that's a very provocative thing, right? That sounds like, whoa, tell me more. Did they really? And having the resources they do and knowing people on budget, they were able to explain to me a lot more about that and how it works and why it happened that way. for me, to avoid any potential negative, headlines or tweets that really don't portray that same sort of sentiment, that there's potentially, lack of care in our budgeting system. I would also point to that the council, even if it's a slam dunk, they read it once, come back to the next meeting, and then vote on it. Just so there's, 2 readings and 2 times for people to do that. I completely understand it was a COVID, it didn't happen, but I can see also the benefit of, even if it's a slam dunk, you go do your basics one night, come back 3-4 nights later, whatever the timeline you guys need is, and then it's an open vote, close, see you later, see you next year, just to avoid any of those potential tweets or provocative or inciting sort of statements that truly caught me like, whoa, what, really? So anyway, that was my thought. Let's go to Councilor Vance, and then.
I just had a quick comment that in one of the recent city council meetings, we were talking about something else, and we heard from staff that they had heard loud and clear that there was unhappiness with, having a budget increase during a COVID year and just the whole process, and that their intent this year was to not have any increase in the budget. So just thought I'd share that as a picture painter.
Yeah, Tammy?
If I could just make one more comment. The budget committee is really an important piece, and I probably can't stress that enough, because when that budget gets approved, any new positions that are in there, any new programs, new fire truck, car, building a new street, whatever it is, that's signing off on those things. Now, whether they actually end up happening or not, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But when those things, when that budget gets approved, everything and everyone that's in there, it has the green light.
All right, thank you. Chris, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. The other thought I had that I forgot to mention last time was along the lines when I was saying that I agreed with Victoria about how this proposal is something that's already there, that they usually have at least a couple meetings. And the other thing that came to my mind is, sure, last year may have been done in one meeting, but that does not mean that it's all of a sudden a law that they can only have one meeting a year now. That was just how that year went.
Excellent, I appreciate that. Going back to Tim's statement here, I believe the way this is written, it would be, the question is whether or not we as a group want to forward this statement from the CAC, and then again, who we would send it to, and if that would be just the budget committee or the budget and the council. Obviously, this is just a recommendation statement. So I suppose let's send the discussion in that direction. Is this something that we as a group are considering as important to send?
City councilors, what is your feeling there? Do you think this should just go to the budget committee, or should it go to city council, or what are your thoughts?
I'll say, if you want to start with community, I guess I don't see it being a bad message to go to either group. It's a message just saying that you want it to be. It's not an action item that we're going to enforce. It's just a notion to say, hey, we want it to go 2 nights. I kind of see it going to both groups, but have you talked to the city manager, Ray, about his thoughts on this, or how you normally would do a protocol as CAC sends a memo?
I can type in there. So after our last discussion, I talked with our community development director, Chris, about it, and I believe he forwarded it to city manager, I believe also the finance director, and I think potentially even the mayor, I'm not sure. So I have the procedure ready and in place if you all decide to forward it to the budget committee. I'd have to check in to see how it would get forwarded to city council, but if that's who you all want to send it to, then I'll make sure to follow the process.
Well, budget committee does include city council.
That's what
That's basically, I mean, that's the answer right there. Right?
I
Yeah,
think it should go to the full budget committee because it's related to all of them.
All right.
Tim?
Yep.
I would also, if this was to go forward, I would let that committee know the minutes of this conversation, to hear the recording, because it's just about a half an hour conversation. So they can understand some ideas, some motive and intent, and some discussion points, rather than just a paragraph where they might go, well, where did this come from? Do you know what I mean? So if that does go forward, I would like that this was a discussion, and here's the timeline, and then here's the statement. That's just a thought.
Sure, sounds good. And I think there's at least 3 of us on Community Advisory Committee who are on the Budget Committee. And so, you know, I think we can all help make that happen as well. And we represent, you know, both perspectives here in terms of thinking this might be a good idea and thinking maybe it not necessary. So I think that can be done.
Well, Tim, it's Victoria. I do like your wording much better on this one than the last.
You're welcome.
And since we missed the last one, are we just going to give them this half hour just out of curiosity? Or are we going to get the other one too? Because now I'm curious to go back.
It was a little harsher. I'll just say that.
The minutes are all available, right, for everyone. So we could specify or remind them of those. All right, I know we need to draw this to an end. So maybe in light of that, I'll say I'll move that we send this to the full budget committee as a recommendation, and looking for a second, and then we can put it all to bed one way or the other.
And with that, you also want to include Diane's suggestion to a link to the meeting with the number of the minutes where we started, the timeline of this discussion for reference, should they so wish to hear the discussion.
Is that something that should be included in the recommendation itself, or just sent along with the recommendation?
What I was suggesting is that we send this recommendation going on your motion. My question was, along with sending this written recommendation, should we approve it? Do we also want to then, as part of this, have Diane's idea that we include a link to these minutes along with time frames, so that if they wish to view the discussion, that they would have access to this conversation?
Yeah, I'm happy to add that to the motion, so that that information is made available at the same time. Tanny?
I propose a friendly amendment from the peanut gallery here. Just a thought on your last sentence, where you come up upcoming annual budget, and then you have the word before. See that?
Considering that.
Yes.
Okay, after the word before, I would say the budget committee approves the budget and forwards its recommendation to the Troutdale City Council.
You said after before? After the word before?
After the word before, then we'd have the budget committee approves the budget and forwards its recommendation to the Troutdale City Council. I know that kind of sounds a little technical, but that's actually the process that we go through.
Before the budget committee
Approves the budget and forwards its recommendation and then come back and take out. There you go. Perfect.
All right, it's perfect. You heard the man. I accept that amendment, friendly amendment to the proposal.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, David got it.
Seconded by David. And if we could possibly unscreen share so we can.
Yeah, I'm having trouble undoing that for some reason. Huh. There we go. Okay.
Let's see here. I cannot see Heidi, so she's still with us here.
She's on audio.
Unmute or answer. But all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Okay. Any opposition? Okay, 1, 2, okay. Do we need to record yeas and nays or just the final vote?
We could do the roll call just to be safe, since
Okay.
some people aren't all visible.
Let's do the roll
That
call,
might be best.
just to be sure. Sure.
All right, committee member Whedon,
Yes.
committee member Eric,
Yes.
committee member Lumiere,
Yes.
committee member Reynolds,
Yes.
committee member Barney,
No.
committee member Castillo,
Yes.
committee member Rizzo,
No.
committee member Hinshaw,
I believe she's offline presently.
so we won't record a vote for her then, and Chair Knight.
Yes.
Great.
And I apologize. I will go back to the email that Heidi sent out earlier that she had to be off the conversation at 8:30 tonight. Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your input on that. Let's go ahead and go to staff communications. What do you have for us tonight, Amber?
Yeah, let me just pull up my notes here. Alrighty, so first, the chicken permit fee. I know we were talking about that last meeting. It has been voted on by the council. It's $20 for a 2-year permit. So I wanted to give you all that update for your hard work on that. Next, the town center plan was approved by the town center committee. Woo, yay. And last I heard, it would be presented to city council on March 9th, so next week. For the trail project, we're coming up on a 60% design review, and there will be a pre-application meeting. So kind of the first steps of a land use application happening for that later this month. Some other information we recently received from the state, updated data on the amount of households in Troutdale that are severely rent burdened. So we got the data for severely rent burdened cities in Oregon. That data comes from American Community Survey data and PSU population estimates. Just as a reminder, severely rent burdened cities are those where over 25% of the population is spending more than 50% of their income on rent. In 2020, 34.3% of rental households in Troutdale were severely rent burdened. For 2021, it went down to 26.2%. So pretty big jump downwards, which is good news. We certainly don't want to be moving the opposite way. But an important thing to note I saw in the data was the overall number of rental households in Troutdale also decreased. So I don't know if that maybe means the people who are severely rent burdened are moving out of Troutdale. I'm not sure that, the data doesn't paint that full picture, but wanted to give you all an update on that. And then finally, next week at City Council, there will also be some presentations on some potential new standards. So we'll be exploring potential standards for age-restricted housing in Troutdale, and is exploring a new mixed-use zoning district for the Confluence/urban renewal area. And that's all the updates I have. Any questions?
Real quick, what was the number? The rent burden went from what to 26.2?
It went from 34.3% to 26.2%.
Thank you. And then, go ahead, Sandy, or Mr. Councilor Glatz.
I was just going to ask, how many people from Troutdale were in that survey? I mean, are we talking about a sample size of 50 people, or did we get at least 300?
For that survey data.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's based on like the census data, so I'm not sure where they derive those numbers from. But they count like all of the rental households. So I don't remember exactly what it was. I think maybe it was around 1,200 total rental households. But I could have those numbers wrong. I'd have to double check that. And I can look up that information and send it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
You said the 60% design meeting was when? Coming up this month?
Yes, the pre-application meeting, yes, coming up this month.
And is that 60% design information available online, or maybe that's something you bring for staff communication?
I can see if that's something I can bring. Yeah, I don't know how publicly available it is. I mean, any pre-application information that we have is always available through like public records requests, but I don't know if we're like sharing it at this point, but I can certainly see if that's something I can bring for next month.
Is Parks taking that on then? Is that under their hat? Because my fear is that now that the Hunt Center is potentially done, who's being involved in the process as we go from 30 to 60 to 100?
Yeah, so I believe Parks Advisory Committee is primarily the ones who have been providing feedback throughout the process.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then one other question, we had talked previously about if there was any discussion from Planning Commission about the rent burden meeting, and if they had any chance to have any post rent burden meeting discussions.
Yeah, I don't believe that was covered in any of the previous meetings. I know the February main Planning Commission meeting was canceled, and then the other meeting had focused on, it was a 3-city meeting with Fairview and I think Wood Village focused on the Halsey project.
Excellent. Could you help us keep an eye on that and kind of help bring that full circle so that we can get the comments from the Planning Commission on what their minutes look like from their discussions on it?
Yeah, and they did approve the rent burden meeting minutes. I know that, yeah.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments for staff?
What did you say about the age? It was in your.
Oh, the age restricted housing.
What is that?
Yeah, so we're thinking about potential changes or additions to the development code around age restricted housing. So for example, maybe like an apartment building where it's 55 and above people who live there. Perhaps there's different code standards for that type of housing. As opposed
So
to
we're
just
looking at the code for that.
Yeah, potentially.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, before we go to committee member concerns, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything? One last. See, Mr. Irwin or Brett Irwin and Paul Wilcox. Give it a beat here one. And then we'll, if there's no public comments, then we'll go to Shelley for any committee member comments or concerns.
Hi, I just want to say thank you to the city council members for joining us. It was great to have you. And of course, Amber, thank you for all you do. Alexander, maybe you can thank Heidi for her wonderful presentation.
I will.
And those are my contributions for the evening.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Let's go with David.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the council members for being here. Being a council member is an enormous time commitment and not to be taken lightly. Thank you. It's hard work. Tanny, thank you for being here as well. Good input tonight. I've got nothing else. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Diane.
Ditto on everybody that contributed, and thank you, counselors and Tammy for coming this evening. And it was a good meeting, and thanks for all the input.
Alexander.
I'll add my thank you to the list of thank yous. Thanks to the council members for coming and using your time. The added perspectives were immensely important to me. Also, I like the discussions that we have, and I think we're becoming a very thoughtful think tank, and I appreciate all of that and all the ideas that everyone has. I'll stop waving my hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris?
Well, I think I'll just say thank you to everybody for a productive and straightforward meeting.
Thank you. Tim?
Thanks again, everyone, counselors, and Tanny. It's very encouraging to have you come and just be a part of this. So it doesn't mean you have to come every time, but feel free, feel free. We appreciate it a lot. And thank you, Amber, again, for all your help communicating. Good times here, folks. That's it.
Excellent. Yeah, I know I can't really add too much. Amber, thank you again. Great meeting. I really appreciate all your hard work. Let's see, again to Heidi, thank you very much for bringing that topic up, and I strongly encourage, oh, sorry, Victoria. I didn't see,
Well, I didn't have a device, so it ended up in the toilet, like I said earlier this evening. Okay, I wanted to thank Sandy and Jamie for coming. Long ago, when I was on this, I've been on this committee a while, and the council people would come in, and it was so great. And I'm very happy that you guys popped in, and like they said, you don't have to come every time, but it is so great to see you. And thanks, Tanny. And everybody have a good night. We're almost at the end of COVID.
Thank you, Victoria. I apologize. I'm so focused on my screen here. But yes, again, want to reiterate Amber, Heidi, and then again, Councilor Glantz, Kranz, and White were the 3 of the 7 that responded to me. And it was, you guys read the emails where to say, hey, come meet and greet, introduce yourself, and to have Councilor Glantz and Kranz participate with us was a real treat. And so thank you both very much for that. And Tanny as well, thank you for being here. So with that, let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Let's go back to maybe a motion and a second to end the meeting.
My turn. I move to adjourn.
Second. Chris got the second, I think.
We got a tie with Chris and Tim there. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you again.
Thanks for setting this up.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amber.